Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Future Stars live on Hidayat TV. I'm your host Shah, and today we are talking about the consequences of sins and how they affect our lives. And this is part one of two parts, and we're splitting it into two parts because there's quite a lot to talk about. So before I continue, I'd like to introduce my guests.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Misbah.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Mohsin.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Hidayat.
Thank you for the introduction, and like we do on every show, some read the surah, some read the translation. Misbah, you're reading surah, and Mohsin, you're reading the translation. So can we start them off with the loud salawat? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farajahum.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. لإيلاف قريش إيلافهم رحلة الشتاء والصيف فليعبدوا رب هذا البيت الذي أطعمهم من جوع وآمنهم من خوف. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, for the taming of courage, for their taming, we cause the caravan to set forth in winter summer to let them worship the Lord of this house, who have fed them against hunger and have made them safe from fear.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Thank you for that. So remember, whenever you're reading the surah, make sure you read the translation as well, so you know the history behind it and how you can implement it into your life also. So today we talk about what we're talking about?
Consequences from
Of sins. So what are sins?
Bad deeds.
Yeah, they're bad deeds. The things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us not to do, but if you do them, they're the things that you're not supposed to do. They're called a sin. They're bad deeds. You're not supposed to do those things, and if you do, you get gunnah for those sins. It's a bad deed. So these are things. Sins are things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us not to do. By not doing them, we can get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So today we are talking about the consequences of those things. So what might be the kind of things that we might be talking about today?
What would happen if like a big sin is done?
Yeah, and how can it affect your life as well? Also,
how can we stop doing them?
yeah, how we can stop doing as well. Most important thing, how can we stop doing them? That's the most important thing as well. So before we start, can we have a first salawat in honor of our holy prophet, peace be upon him?
Allahumma salli ala
Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Second, in honor of our holy first Imam Ali alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. And third, with our loudest voices, in honor of the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Thank you for that. Okay, so Mohsin, you've got the first thing. So can we have another loud salawat? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farajahum.
Allah has sent out rules for human beings to follow. From the previous lesson, we have realized that the rules are necessary and that rules are best made by Allah the Creator. First, we have to follow the rules that Allah makes for us. This is known as obedience to Allah and is a form of worship. Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Thank you, Mohsin. So Mohsin, what Mohsin talking about there? He's talking about obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does he mean by that? What does he mean by obedience to Allah?
Obeying Him, following His orders.
Yeah, and when he tells you not to do something, you shouldn't do it. Like haram food, we're not allowed to eat them. We shouldn't be going to do haram foods. Stuff like that. So you obey him, you obey the rules that he given you, and you follow them as well. So thank you, Mohsin. Misbah, you've got the second thing. So can we start Misbah with the loud salawat? Allah Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farjum.
Worship of Allah is not only done because we are afraid that He may punish us if we disobey Him. It is also not done because we would like to have the rewards He has promised us if we obey Him. We obey Allah because we have found Him worthy of worship. He is great and powerful. He has given us existence and He has blessed us with many things. So we worship and obey Him after learning about all His qualities. Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farjum. Thank you for that, Misbah. So, what was Misbah talking about there? Any of you can think? So, what was she talking about? Misbah?
I was talking about if we do not we don't disobey Allah because we are scared of what He's gonna punish us with. We do it because we know He's worthy of worship.
Yeah. So the big thing is because we're going to be talking about something that one of our imams have said. We're going to Imam Ali alayhi salam. Hussein is what Hussein will be talking about next. Imam Ali alayhi salam, he talks about these three type of people who actually obey Allah. The three type of people who obey Allah and their different qualities. So what do you think one might be, Mohsin?
One is the greedy one. The greedy one.
Yeah, the one that wants some reward. So that's for example. These are maybe one of the type of things that Imam Ali was talking about worship. Who worships Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So which is the one that is the most obedient? So why should we be worshipping Allah? Like Misbah said, what did Misbah said why we should? The reason why, Mohsin?
Because He's worthy of praying.
Because He's worthy of worship. He's worthy of worship, and He's the only one worthy for us to give our prayers to. That's the most important thing. That's why we should worship Him, not because of any reward, not because of greed, not because you're scared. The most thing because He is worthy of worship, because He's the one that created us, and He's the only one who's worthy to worship. That's the most reason why. Hussein's got the next thing. So can we start with saying off with the loud salawat? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farajahum.
Imam Ali alayhi salam once said, the worshippers of Allah are of three types. 1. Those who worship out of fear of the fire, and that is the worship of the slaves. 2. Those who worship for reward, and that is the worship of the traders, i.e. they want to trade their good deeds for heaven. 3. Those who worship because they have found Allah to be worthy of worship, and this is the worship of the free people, not tied by fear or greed. We should try to be from the third group of worshippers, since that is the most noblest form of worship, even though the other two are better than not worshipping Allah. Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil faraj. Thank you, Hussein. So Hussein mentioned the thing that I was talking about Imam Ali alayhi salam, what he said. So he said about these three type of people who worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What was the first type of people that he mentioned? Who was?
The people who were scared.
Yeah, the people who were scared and do it out of fear of the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who do it out of fear and they're scared. And what did Imam Ali call them?
Slaves.
Yeah, the slaves, the worshippers of the slaves. And then what was the second one? Yeah, it's kind of the greed one, the traders, wasn't it?
The traders.
Yeah, and what was about them? What was Imam Ali?
They trade their good deeds for heaven.
They want the reward, and they only want the reward. They're only worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the reward. So Imam Ali called them the traders because they trade their good deeds for heaven. And what was the third out of all of them?
the right one.
The people who worship Allah because they believe that He is worth worshipping.
Yeah, because he's the only one worth worshipping, and he's the people who what did Imam Ali call them? The free. Can you remember free?
The free people.
Yeah, the free people. What does he mean by the free people?
That they don't do it because of, like, they're not forced to do it, but they're not doing it because
they're not forced to do it, and they're not doing it because they're scared. They're doing it because
they're not doing. It was their own choice, and they're not doing it out of any other factors. Not doing it any because they're scared or because they want the reward. Nothing, just because he's worthy of the worship that we give him, just because he's worthy of that worship, that they worship him because of that. So what was also Hussein mentioning there, he said out of the three, who was the most noblest?
The third one.
Yeah, the third one, the last one. And we should try
to be like them.
To be like those people who are the only worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because He's worthy of worship, not because you're scared of His punishment, not because you want His reward. It's because that you are you know in yourself that He's the only one worthy. He's the only truly worthy one of your worship. So and also Saint said although it is better to be the people of the slaves or the people traders. It's better to be them than not to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not worship it. It's better to be them. But you should try for your most part to be part of the noblest group of those people who actually worship Allah because of what?
Because they know that He's worthy.
Yeah, because they know He's worthy of worship. Remember, keep this in your head, because at the end we're gonna have a quiz like we do on every single show. Misbah on the next thing. So can we start Misbah off with the loud salawat? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farjahum.
Disobedience of Allah. After accepting the rules of Allah, it is our duty to follow them. Every time we disobey a rule of Allah, that is when we do something He has told us not to do, or we don't do something He wants us to do, we are committing a sin. Sins do not harm Allah. It does not matter to Him whether we follow His rules or not. Sins harm us, and by disobeying Allah, we are hurting ourselves. In the Quran, Allah tells us, whoever does good, it is for his own self, and whoever does evil, it is against the self. Surah Hamim, chapter 41, verse 46.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farjahum. Thank you for that, Misbah. So what was Misbah talking about there?
About a quote from the Quran saying, like, how bad deeds, they hurt yourself,
and
it's for good deeds and bad deeds is for yourself.
It's for yourself, but if you're doing bad deeds, it's just hurting yourself.
Yes, hurting yourself. Why do you think it's hurting?
Because it's affecting you the most, because you was the one that committed it.
Yeah. So give us more detail on that.
Because Allah.
Yeah. It doesn't matter to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
It only matters to you because when you die, then you're going to know why it's wrong.
Yeah, and he's just saying these sins affect you and they harm you. They might not be physically harming you now. It won't be physically harming you, but for soul-wise, it's harming you. And I think we mentioned that example already. Can any of you remember that a glass of water example? Yeah, when the drop goes in and then it spreads out and all that. It just shows the effects of how it's harming you and how it can spread through your whole soul. It can affect you, not now, it can't affect you physically, but soul-wise it can affect you, can't it? Yeah, and then the more the more you listen, once you commit a sin, it's easier for you to commit another sin, isn't it? Yeah. So if you hold back from one sin, it's harder for shaitan, who's whispering this sin into you, to get it through to you, for you to actually to do this. So this is a really important thing. So we need to learn this, because if we do one sin, it's easier to do more other sins. It's more easier. So we need to try to stop refraining from other sins, so we can't make it more longer, and it can't spread through your whole soul. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was talking about that it's not hurting you physically, it might not be hurting you physically now, but when you pass away, when you die, on Judgment Day, it will be affecting you, wouldn't it? Yeah. So that's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about there. So we're saying, you've got the next thing. So can we start saying off with the loud salawat? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farja.
The rules that Allah has sent are for the benefit of mankind, and by not following them, we will be in loss. Even in this world, we know that rules are often set down for the benefit of everybody. A good parent sets rules for their children so that their children are brought up in a proper way. School officials lay rules to make sure things run smoothly. These rules must be obeyed. If they aren't obeyed, then chaos occurs. Thus, when children break rules at home or in school, some disciplinary actions are taken. Constant disobedience shows that the children do not respect the parent or the school authorities. The young girl who loves and respects her mother would follow her rules at home, especially since she knows her mother wishes only good for her. In a similar manner, when we love Allah and realize His greatness, we follow His rules. Love of Allah demands that we try our best to obey Him, and though unfortunately we may occasionally happen to sin, for we are not sinless, it should not be a constant occurrence. Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farja. Thank you, Saint. So what was the Saint talking about? What was the first thing that he was talking about there?
If you don't disobey the rules of in school or at home.
Yeah, he gave a few examples about home and in school, and those rules are let out. Why? Why are those rules are let out?
So that chaos don't occur.
Yeah, so that chaos don't occur. So it's not chaos everywhere. So he put down these rules. School has rules. At home, you have a few rules. So what? Chaos doesn't occur. So likewise, Allah has laid down rules. Why? So chaos can't does not go along earth, and people are not going around hurting each other. So this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put rules down. And what other example did He give there?
That if a child, if a girl loves his mother, it will behave properly at home and won't be bad at home.
Yeah, because it knows its mom wants to do the best for her. Yeah, same likewise, Allah wants to do the best for us. So He gave us these rules, and that you should follow them, because you know it will do good for you. So these are just a few things, and it ties in with our other subjects, other things that we talked about, hasn't it? Through the past few weeks that we were talking about fiqh. So can one of you tell us how does it tie in with that?
About manners and respect.
Yeah. Because manners that you should, so akhlaq, you need them.
Manners at home.
Yeah, manners at home, and this just shows, and because we're talking about sins, when we're talking about halal and haram food, yeah, don't you think they would affect you as well, also because they're a sin? Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you are knowingly eating haram food and drinks, it will affect you, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we need to keep these in mind. So one of the most important lessons that we're going to learn from today is when you do a sin, refrain from that first sin, because when you do that sin, it's easier to do some other sins as well. And remember Hussein's example about the mother and the rules as well. That's the one important thing as well. So what do we normally do?
Quiz.
A quiz. Okay, so Mohsin already knows. 100%? 99? 99. Okay. So first of all, it's a true or false. I'm going to say true or false. You either put your hand up and say true or false. Then multiple choice and then short answer questions. Okay? You know the rules. Okay, number 1. Obedience is a form of worship of Allah. Saying?
True.
True. That's right. Number 2. The best form of worship is worshiping Allah of the fear of the fire. Mohsin?
False.
False. That's right. 3. Sins occur when we disobey a rule of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Mohsin?
True.
Yes, that's true. 4. Sins harm Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and put your hand down. Sins, Misbah fully down, yes, so we get no cheating. Sins harm Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is why He has told us not to commit a sin. Misbah?
False.
Yeah, that's false. So does it harm Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Who does it harm?
Yourself.
Yourself, yeah, that's right. Number 5. The rules sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are for the benefit of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So put you down. I'm going to say that again quickly, so because most people hand up before that. The rules set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are for the benefit of Allah. You saying?
No, it's not for the benefit.
Yeah, false.
False.
Now we're going to move on to the multiple choice where I say A, B or C, and then you say A, B or C, which one is right. Okay, number 1. The worship of the traders is the worship of those who worship the reward from heaven. Why is there a form of worship called the worship of the traders? A, because it is like trading. B, because they are trading their good deeds for heaven. C, because they were born into a trading family. Misbah?
B.
B, yes, because they are trading their good deeds for heaven. Okay, number 2. The worship of the free people is the worship of those who worship because they love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Put your hand down. Why is this form of worship called the worship of the free people? Put your hand down. And now you know what I'm going to do. If you put your hand up before I end up with C, you're going to be disqualified from that question. Okay? Okay. A, because they are free in making decisions and are not controlled by the fear of hell or greed for heaven. B, because they get things done for free. C, because they will get into heaven for free. Mohsin?
A.
Yes. A, because they are free in making decisions and are not controlled by the fear of hell or the greed for heaven. Okay, number 3. What does oh, that's my mistake. So now we're going on the short answer questions. Okay, so you know the rule for this one. You have to say one sentence, one word, can't end on your answer. Number 1. What are the 3 forms of worship that put your hand down? What are the 3 forms of worship that Imam Ali alayhi salam has told us about? Mohsin?
The worship of the slave, which is because they're scared of the fire of hell. And number 2, the traders, because they trade their good deeds for heaven. And number 3, because the free people, because they worship Allah because He's worthy of praying.
Yeah, that's right, and that actually gives you 3 points. So can you tell us each before we've got one more question left now. We've got one more question left. So how many points have you each got?
6.
You got 2. How much you got?
6.
6.
2.
You got 2 as well. Are you sure you got 6? 2. Yeah, you got 2. Okay.
You got 3.
Okay. We'll say that you got 3. So we'll put you we'll put you both on free. We've got Mohsin as the winner, so we'll Mohsin, you stay out of this question so we can decide who can come second in this question. Give an example of a rule in this world that has set down for the benefit of everyone. So give an example of a rule in this world given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is set down for the benefit of everyone. Hussein?
No consumption of alcohol, because it can, your full process, it don't let you think of Allah, and you're not aware of what you're doing,
what does it, because we talked about this last week, what does alcohol do? You mentioned one thing about it stops you from remembering Allah. What was the second thing?
That it don't let you pray.
Yeah, it don't let you pray. So talk about that. Why has it been set down?
It's been set down because of like the two things I've said, because it's like so because alcohol does not allow you to pray or to think of Allah. That means that you're unaware of your actions, and you don't know if you're committing a bad deed or a good deed. So, and you don't know what's right from wrong. So then, while you're under the consummation of alcohol, you're not aware of your actions, which means that you could be doing bad stuff, but you won't even realize it.
Yeah, and that's why. And then at the end of that quiz, Mohsin is in first place with 6 points. Hussein in second place with 3 points, and sadly missed in last place with 2 points. But just remember, you're all still winners, and you answer those questions all correctly and all right. So thank you for joining us on today's show. Hope you've learned a lot. Have you? Yeah, I hope you lot at home has learned a lot as well, and we'll be doing part 2 next week, and we'll talk about more detail about sins and their consequences and their effects on how are their effects on yourself after death and now in the present time. That's why. So we'll see you next week, same time, same place on Hidayat TV. But until then, good Hafiz.